We're gonna take off the back. You can move this where you want. It's not.
Whoa.
Corey's the only one that's gonna feel good up here. I feel like.
I know, you know, my legs.
We're like, you wanna sit here, you wanna sit here?
Wherever you want. You sure you want me to know?
Oh, no.
I know, that's cute, actually. Wait, that looks so adorable. Let me put on my crap.
All right, we're live, so don't say anything too scandalous. Let's see, and then I was gonna go back to. Okay. All right, folks, please grab a seat.
You are.
Do not stay to the front row. No fluids involved. All right, welcome everyone to this event on behalf of the Dapper Q Style Ungendering Fashion by Anita Dolce Vita. Yes, give it up. My name is Greg Newton, and I am the co-founder of the Bureau of General Services Queer Division, along with my partner, Donnie Jokum. We are an all-volunteer queer bookstore. We're being helped today by Tannen Reckling, one of our longtime volunteers. Give it up for Tannen. So because we are an all-volunteer bookstore, we depend on donations as well as sales to keep this boat afloat. So we do have a suggested donation of $10. I always say give what you can if you can. And if you'd rather support us by buying a book or two, that's perfectly legitimate. So whatever way you're able to support us, we appreciate it. Even if it's just smiling and being a kind person, it goes a long way these days. So I'll pass this around. You can also make a donation by Venmo at BGSPD, which are those 5 letters you'll see, and for anyone watching online at BGSQD on Venmo. So before I introduce Anita, I wanted to read a land acknowledgement. So the Bureau acknowledges that our organization operates on the unceded land of the Munsee Lenape. We encourage you to join the Bureau in signing up to make a monthly donation to the American Indian Community Houses Mannahatta Fund. Yes, I just asked you for a donation and I'm telling you we donate. It's kind of how it goes. It's the money moves around. It's a big shell game. The Mannahatta Fund, according to its website, is an invitation to all settlers and non-native people who wish to acknowledge the legacy of theft and genocide that comprise the history of New York City and the United States. And you can find out more at mannahattafund.org. We also want to recognize that at this very moment, the ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people by the state of Israel is actively supported by our government with our tax dollars. And we hope that you will join us in calling for a ceasefire and the swift delivery of food, water, medicine, and fuel to the people of Gaza. So, Anita Dolce Vita is the owner of Dapper Q, one of the world's most widely read digital queer style magazines and preeminent voices in queer fashion, and the author of Dapper Q Style, Ungendering Fashion. She is the executive producer behind some of the world's largest celebrations of queer style, including the annual New York Fashion Week Queer Runway Show at Brooklyn Museum, the annual Target Youth Pride Fashion Show for NYC Pride, and queer fashion shows at the Institute of Contemporary Art Boston and the Museum of Fine Arts Boston. Anita also produced the first queer fashion panel to be featured at the South by Southwest and has been a keynote speaker for DEI events for global retail brands such as Abercrombie & Fitch. Her work has been featured in Vanity Fair, the New York Times, Teen Vogue, and Out Magazine, to name a few. So please give a very warm welcome to Anita.
Let's take this down if I can. Perfect.
So thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate it. And thank you to Corey and Kim. I do also want to acknowledge that this book would not be possible without our official photographer for the book, Kim, otherwise known as the Street Sensei. I highly recommend you follow her at the Street Sensei on Instagram, and also without the help of all of the models who not only showcased an amazing array of style inspiration, but also offered their words on how queer style is a form of visual activism, a tool for our liberation, and also a source of self-love and self-affirmation. So thank you all. I do want to start by reading a short bio for both of our speakers. First, we have Corey Wade, who is a multimedia entertainer and activist, most well known for competing and placing third on cycle 20 of America's Next Top Model. Corey has used the social platform garnered through their reality TV stint to help facilitate conversations around queer inclusion and LGBTQIA+ equality across America. He has toured the US to speak at multiple colleges and universities on effective allyship, inclusion, equality, and human understanding. Corey is also a fiercely talented musician. Their debut album, Unify, independently released in 2017, was produced by Alan Glass, who has produced iconic records from the likes of Aretha Franklin, The Temptations, Jennifer Holliday, and more. So let's give it up for Corey. And then we have Kim, AKA the Street Sensei. Kim is a photographer and videographer known for their street style work with celebrities and their editorial work with several high fashion brands, and is the official photographer Dapper Q's debut print book, Dapper Q Style, Ungendering Fashion, published by HarperCollins. Thank you. So the question, so we wrote a book about queer style. We wrote it, we modeled, there's interviews, there's photography, but can I get your all's definition individually of what is queer style exactly? We'll start with Corey.
Sure. I don't know. I feel like I'm audible. Can you all hear me? Yeah. All right. So like, to me, queer style can mean so many different things. I think style is important to queer people because it's how we communicate to the world about who we are without words, right? And a lot of the words that we use today to talk about our experiences as queer people, as LGBTQIA+ people, we didn't always have those words. We didn't have words like gender fluid, gender queer, non-binary, pan-gender. So all we had was our style. I would also say that like the thing that makes queer style so amazing and magical and special in the world is that it's really, for me anyway, centered around how a person genuinely feels. When you dress up in your queer style and unapologetically, it's based on a feeling, a genuine feeling. It's not based on the style trend you were trying to chase, and it's not based on the box that you were trying to fit in. The tropes that we've all become so accustomed to over time. Man wears suit, woman wears a dress. It has nothing to do with any of that, because it doesn't really hinge upon like the success that you're trying to like build up for yourself, or like the image that you're trying to pass on to the world. It's really based on genuine feeling and how you feel, and I love that. And that, yeah, I feel like that covers it. It's different for everybody too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm gonna take the mic because I'm not.
Do what you gotta do.
I think I agree with Corey, like queer style, even in the book, is that it's not really like this or that, which is very binary in a lot of like fashion, like, mainstream fashion. Well, before, now it's a little bit more fluid, but for me, queer style is like Corey said, like it's just it's more about feelings, and because we didn't have all these labels or like, these kind of like structures and boxes before, so it's very unique. It's very unique to who you are. And I will like to say like queer people kind of make queer people already make the fashion very forward, and now the mainstream trends are like now following. So for me, I feel like queer people set the trend before the trend was even a trend.
Yes.
So yeah.
So a lot of people have actually kind of talking a little bit about what you mentioned. Both of you mentioned some things about the binary. And a lot of people have asked me, particularly journalists, when they're covering the fashion show, they'll say, well, why do you need a queer fashion show? Isn't the fashion community gay already? And I think that they're kind of thinking of traditional cis white designers that are designing clothing for that very binary structure that we're very used to. So can you talk a little bit about how queer style kind of dismantles those binaries?
Yeah. Isn't it the thing that we're all chasing, right? Like that genuine feeling, right? Like that's, I feel like what a lot of people can't really access or just don't have the bravery, the guts to just like seize, like, you know, I feel like a lot of people just like fall into styling themselves in the way that they were trained to style themselves just to get by. And without making any kind of statement other than I'm normal in the world. You know what I mean? And the fashion industry, it's like it's a money market that has relied on those people and that needs to cater to those people so that these people can feed their families, so that these people can make their money. And yeah, like a lot of people behind the scenes of the fashion industry are queer. But that doesn't mean that like in order for the industry to thrive, like they haven't had to cater to that very cis hetero like normativity and really what people have relied on just to get by and to feel normal and to feel comfortable out in the world. You know, like I go out to the grocery store with my fiance, just like, you know, we live in Jersey, and I'm editing what I'm wearing. You know what I mean? Like I won't wear certain things that I know I feel super comfortable in because I don't really necessarily want to start a conversation or have eyes turn my way every time I go out into the world. I'm not always trying to make a statement. I'm just trying to get by. And I think that's why the defaults are there, and they're really like they're unfortunate and they're debilitating because they stifle our ability to like access our deeper truths and to really dress the way we feel. So that's why it's like unattainable for a lot of people, and that's why the fashion industry is what it is. It's a circle. It's a cyclical thing. Yeah.
I'm Corey.
Great.
Anything better to say?
So Dapper Q has been around since 2009. Yeah, and so
Yeah.
we were one of the first online platforms to really start archiving queer fashion, and also at the same time, you know, back in the day, it was like, were we going to be a Tumblr? If anybody remembers Tumblr, or we were going to be a website, and we decided we went down the path of a website because we just didn't want to recycle images. We wanted to also create new content, like brand new content. And you all have been a part of that journey along the way. Can you tell me how you found out about Dapper Q and you know, how you've participated throughout the years and making it what it is today?
So I feel like I've said this to a lot of people before, but maybe you guys don't know, but 2011, I was in college and I was in Pennsylvania. I went to like a very liberal, predominantly white college. And I've never been in a suburbs before in my life. That was my first time in a suburb. And I thought like, wow, this is really quiet. Like people are really quiet here. And then like, I felt like I didn't really have something that felt like me. And then like I was on Tumblr, like, you know, because it's 2011, we don't have really Instagram yet. And then I found like Dapper Q. And I remember like in 2011, like I didn't even know I wanted to be a photographer. I didn't think art or like being in the fashion industry was a possibility. And then I was just reading this blog and I see all these like really, really cool, hot, sexy lesbians and like, you know, or like, you know, high femme or like butch or soft butch. And then like that also kind of educated me because I was still trying to find who I am, like, you know, and my identity. And then like I remember like 2013 or something, you were like, you put out a call, like a casting call, I guess. You were like, oh, I want to we're casting for models for Dapper Q fashion show. And then when I read that, and I had school, so obviously I didn't make it, but I was like, oh my God, I would love to work with like Dapper Q, like in some type of way, like, you know, whatever. And then I started getting into photography. And then a couple, like, and I met bloggers and blah, blah. And then like about 1 year into my work, we met in Palm Springs in this like lesbian like retreat house or something that she was organizing.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait, like she's the EIC of WQ. And I was like, how? And like I remember that she was chopping avocado for us. And I was just like, as a woman, I was like, I've been reading you since like 2011 in college. And then like I can't believe I'm like shooting for you. And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah. And then so that's how and then so after that, when we became like friends, I was like, you know, anything you need, anything from show, shoots, whatever, just let me know. And like I would love to be a part of it. And we've just been in partnership since like 2017, I think. So yeah.
I like, honestly, I'm trying to piece together how we actually met because I don't know. I just don't know. I know that you are a magical being and you fell into my life somewhere along the journey. And I want to say that we met like on a pride float.
We met on a pride.
Like we were on it. Yeah. I was like, was that a fever dream? Like, did that happen? No,
that
that happened. We were like on
happened,
a pride float. Okay.
We trying to look for a party to go to afterwards.
And I don't think we found one. So we had like a very, instead we had like a quaint, like dinner, like or lunch, like after the parade lunch where we sat down and just like, it was so weird because it was like pride and everybody's like, and we were just like, so like, would you like more tea? I do remember that. But I thought, you know, I think we were like drawn to each other on that float. We really were. And I think it was for the door NYC, which at the time,
The door.
yeah. At the time I was doing a lot of sort of like, I don't know, just like blasting them out on social media. Honestly, it was truly the beginning of my journey as an activist because I was definitely not always like the person that I am now, like somebody who, you know, I feel like I just really didn't care as much until the whole top model thing because it was like, you know, it was like having my very, very queer story just like out for the world to see and having kids reach out to me and all of that. So that was like the first Pride after, it was like the second or first, I don't know, it could have been first. I don't know, Pride after Top Model. So I was like, I want to get involved with the door. And then I found you, and I think I was just looking for people who were doing great work in the community to really get involved with so that I could like do more. Like it felt like I was starting to, like my purpose was starting to unveil itself little by little. And you were part of that, you definitely were. And then I guess we would send like messages of admiration through the ether on social media for like years. And then there was like this one, it was a WQ runway show that you invited me to walk in at the Brooklyn Museum. And we had the best time. I mean, I had the best time ever in that show. Because at the time too, like I was also trying to like, you know, run my modeling career, which was a thing. And all of the other runway shows that I was doing were like totally different. So structured, rigid. I was pressured to dilute myself and to really like, you know, you're really told as a professional model to like, you're to be void of emotion or any kind of like sass or attitude or anything that is like you're genuinely a mannequin, a robot. But in your show, it's a celebration of who you are. It's about the feeling. Queer style, queer fashion. It's always about the feeling. It's always spiritual. It's real. It's like fashion through to the core of who we are, and then what does that look like when we like? What does that manifest itself as when you know when you're in the clothes? So I don't know. I've always just been rooting for you. I think I felt the support from you and everything that I've done too, whether we share space or whether we're just you know sending messages of love from afar. Yeah. I've always felt like you were really a true one and like a real support, and I hope I've been that for you too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's been a pleasure to work with both of you. And that's actually the reason why I wanted to kind of build up this history of your involvement with WQ is that both of you have a lot of strong experience working in mainstream fashion, whether it's a model, whether it's being on America's Next Top Model, on reality TV shows, and that's curated in a different way than I think probably just even mainstream fashion in general.
Oh, sure, that's totally different.
Yeah, right. Like in terms of entertainment. And then, you know, Kim, you have some high-end clients. Some of them are so high-end you can't even mention them. But if you go to the website now or on your Instagram, you recently did the 20th anniversary of Tom Brown, right? You documented that, big things. But what I wanted to ask is, in what ways is working for, whether it's modeling, photography, writing, for queer platforms, for and by queer people, how is that different than working in mainstream?
I think like from my experience, I would say like it's getting better now, and I feel like especially like in the recent years, like after pandemic, I will say, like I think people are not just like checking boxes, they also really now starting to understand like, you know, the diversity a little bit. I'm not saying they're great at it. I'm just saying they're, you know, they're doing the work a little bit now. And then I feel like before and the crazy thing to me is that when I first started, I think because I was already working, or like I was reading and watching your stuff, and then when I started working with you, and so I was also learning because that was my beginning. And I feel like from working on your show, it's just like you just have these people there, and because you genuinely want them to be there and you genuinely want to celebrate them, but you're also mindful of like every part of like diversity in age, body, you know, race, you know, hair types, like, you know, so like when I saw that, and then so when I start like doing my own work or doing like, you know, like work for clients sometime, and if I have the opportunity to cast, even like the behind the scenes, I would like to work with more like a woman of color, POC, like for example, I'm shooting tomorrow like this big words night thing, and like my whole crew is POC. Like, you know, from PA to runner to, you know, like producer, everyone's like POC. Maybe except one white guy, but yeah. and he's my homie, so I love his work, and you know, working, but like, and like the whole team was like POC, and then like me and my partner worked together, and we were like, wait, is our whole team POC this year? And we're like, yeah, oh my god, this is great. And then, but yeah, so but I would say like WQ, like I said before, WQ's always been like ahead. And then you know what's so funny, Corey? Like I was like shooting some fashion shows this season, some shows, they were like walking like WQ models.
Yeah.
Like all of a
I
sudden.
see that.
And like I don't remember which specific show. And I was like, yo, what is this? Like I got shocked. I was like, okay, so now you're like, these like models are super fun to like shoot and watch, and you know, like even like WQ, when I shoot the models, like I will always like, you know, come back to WQ as like the beginning, because I wasn't published in a lot of publication before WQ, and then like whenever I shoot your show, you'll send it out to all these like nylon whatever, so then it really helps me to get like, you know, better client and, you know, better work. So yeah, like, yeah, it really is. WQ is the GOAT.
Yeah.
Well, just real quick, for those who have not been to our show, can you explain the differences in the walk, or you as a model?
I could totally explain, but I'm also going to talk about some other things. But I'm going to talk about the difference. Well, honestly, it makes me think about the Victoria's Secret runway shows back when they were like, you know, in their heyday. That was the runway show where like more personality was shown. It was, isn't that funny? Like that was the one where they were allowed to smile and cut loose and wink at the audience and all of these things. And like, and now since we've evolved from like that being like, oh, that's free self-expression. Like now we know, like we are so much more multi-layered than that as humans, and we demand to see more depth and more diversity and more realness. And that's what the WQ runway shows offer. I do think they're fabulous, mostly for that. And there are the obvious differences between working for like you know, mainstream brand and working for like a queer collective. There are the obvious differences where one is going to make you feel more free and connected to your truth, and the other really feels like a job. And that's because, in my experience, most of the ones in that mainstream industry sector things have been the jobs, the real jobs. My struggle in this whole thing, it has been trying to make money doing the things that I love, working with the queer people that I love working with. That's just not a reality for most of us, you know, even still. And it, like certain things that I would post about the queer runway shows that I have been involved with, not yours specifically, but just like others, or like it could be like a photo shoot where I wanted to be more creative, where I'm wearing makeup and like I have like nails snapped in and I'm just doing something different. My agency and all of the people like who would get me those paying jobs would say, you need to take that down. You need to take that off of your 9 square. You have to remove those posts because you're not going to be able to work. That's the reality of it. That's the biggest difference that I think deserves to be like mentioned. Like we're still like figuring that out too. Like it's not until your client knows you as the unapologetic like queer you know, whatever, maybe social justice warrior, or maybe not, maybe just somebody who wants to present differently out in the world. Like it's not until those clients know what they're getting when they put their money on you and what they're saying that you can actually start to be yourself. And you say, I'm finally there, and now I'm 33. And I'm like, damn it, because the kids that I would be competing with if I was still in the thick of my modeling career are like 17 to like 22. You know, it's a long journey. I think it is easier for those kids now. I think you're right about that it's changed. And I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
But I don't really know because I'm not in it the way that I used to be. But because when I was, it was like, gosh, all I want to do are like dapper cute runway shows. It's all I want to do are the runway shows where I'm like literally in my queer truth. But it just wasn't livable and it sucked. So now I'm hoping, and I will always be an advocate for making sure that it's an industry that people can really live off of. Because I think people deserve to love their jobs.
Yeah.
All of us. Yeah. You know. You know.
On that note.
We love.
Yes.
Love.
Well, there's so many things that you mentioned. I know I've prepared questions, but there's so many things that you're bringing up, and I really want to just kind of dive a little deeper in. One of the things that you mentioned is that like you will post something that is, you know, very queer, and then you're kind of told behind the scenes like this could actually impact your ability to get paid jobs with, you know, high, like maybe larger corporations.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me and both of you a little bit about not only what that like, but what's behind it?
I don't know how to answer it, but I feel like I just remember something when you were talking about it,
Yeah.
and like how like the whole like your 9 grid agency and stuff. It's like the way I see it for like especially with models, like when I speak now, they do the industry has been changing in a good way a little bit, but also you'll think they have it easy, but then it's like I feel like before pre-pandemic, like models are very much like, you know, casting, they don't ask you for your followers and stuff. Now sometimes they ask like even to models like your followers and stuff. So they now have the pressure of like building this social media image, but then you also can't be yourself because sometimes the agents like, oh, like that's like too lifestyle. Like, you know, because if you're yourself and you're cheerful or you're not, like, you know, that doesn't fit into that whatever box that they're trying to build. So they always get like, oh, like be like build your followers, but then you can't be yourself. Like there's that, like, you know, it's so contradictory. And then I feel like the only time where I see like something like big brands or like, you know, these people will work with like very like, you know, queer is like if they see the numbers and they're already established and like and they're one of a kind. Like, but then if someone else, if another model and they're trying to build their content around something like this other person, they don't have the follower, they're definitely not gonna choose that one. Right? Yeah. Like so it's like it's very like very contradictory and it's still hard, like, you know. So yeah,
I think Kate talks about that in the book a little bit when they mentioned that about multiplicity and how oftentimes that, you know, when working with like larger brands, they'll see one. There's just room for one of us, and then you
Yeah.
just see the same person kind of recycled throughout campaigns, but there's not a real, it's the diversity there is kind of performative. It's not really opening doors for a lot of people in the community. And
there's like serious like tokenizing that goes
Yes.
into it, like hardcore. Yeah. Like when I noticed, like when I started to get jobs, like after I was very, very like unapologetically like queer in my presentation, like it would always be either me or one other queer model for this, like, you know, it would, I'm trying to think of, there was a commercial, or it wasn't an actual commercial, it was like an online video, I guess that's, no, it isn't, whatever. It was a freaking stupid, it was like a makeup brand or whatever, and they were like, there's gonna be one, like, man, like somebody who's like male presenting and they're like hard, and then there's gonna be one that is more soft and more femme, and like, honestly, like, that is going to pigeonhole you, and it's going to cut your chances of getting that specific job in half. But honestly, like, they are in charge of the messaging that they want to put out. However they do it, that's up to them. And like, honestly, you can't really be all that mad when they have a brief to fill, and like the concepts for every advert that we look at, like they go through like so many layers of just like mood boards of things being shifted around, and like there's a direct plan, you know, that like your individuality might not gel with. Maybe you can fake it and play the part. So a lot of the time you're told by your agencies to be like as muted as possible, or to be as much of a blank canvas as possible, because it's really the job of the client to like be able to, or you're more desirable if they're able to put you into however they need you to be. You know, does that make sense? Or does it, okay, so that, it's just like, I don't know, and it becomes like, after a while, honestly, it's just not really all that worth it. And then when kids now ask me like advice as to how they want to get started in the modeling industry, I'm like, my biggest advice would be like, don't do it, because like it's not like, I mean, like, because the job itself, it's not, it's glamorized, and it makes it look like these people are like having the best time ever, because you're selling joy as a model, and you're selling confidence. But like 99% of the time, the person emulating that image is not confident, is not really what you're seeing, and they're actors, they're just like actors, you know? And it's very much of the moment, and we like really glamorize that moment that went through like so many different iterations before what we saw, and like in the editing room, like so many things happened before we saw it, and I feel like we glamorize it way too much. It's not the healthiest.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't even know what that ran. What was the question? right.
No, we answered the question.
Yeah,
We did. Okay, we got
it.
Good.
You gotta go with the coolness of Kim.
Yeah, I'll just go what Kim said.
Sure.
We did it.
Yeah. No, that was really important insight. Something else that you both said is that it's easier now for younger generations. I have two other questions that spin off of that, but yes, I think that the goal of all of our movements, whether we're doing it through this wonderful center, through books, art, you know, fashion, being able to, dress and be your most authentic self without risk of violence or oppression. I think that's wonderful. But now there's been kind of some discussions as we see people like, why now, my goodness, his name's the one that was on the cover of Vogue, Harry Styles.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so what is the difference? Like, people are saying, what's the line between appropriation and
Appreciation?
not even just appreciation, but like, is the goal of queer style to liberate everyone so that they can, be their most authentic selves? Or do you think that this is very performative and only limited to a few people and not the broader population?
It's so politicized that way, isn't it? And that's because we're at the center of a dumb debate over our very existence. It's so stupid that we even have to answer a question like that. You know what I mean? Because if Harry Styles wants to wear whatever Harry Styles wants to wear, like, that's why I really wish I wish we could just get to the core of it and just say, like, dress the way you freaking feel. But we can't do that because there are all of these expectations as soon as we step outside into the day. You know, oh, when we even do it, like I even do it, like I'm like, oh, she wore that with that, and then I'm like, what am I doing? No, like we're all criticizing and picking each other apart based on what we wear. So like, but anyway, I don't know. I really, how can we get into the mind of Harry Styles? I mean, there are so many people helping Harry be Harry too, that like I do think they probably are trying to say something to that audience in some kind of way. Like I don't think Harry is just like, yeah, I'll just take the lace onesie today. Like I think somebody is helping, but I don't know. Like, but if Harry feels fabulous, then who are we to step into that space and say, oh no, and police it and say that you shouldn't be allowed because you're not as queer as like Billy Porter. Like I don't know. I feel like, and that I don't understand that feud either. I wish everyone could just really wear what they want to wear. Like the end. You know, that's how I feel about Harry. and style.
Like what I wanted to say was like how you were saying in the beginning, like how nowadays like the younger generation have it easier. I want to say that like it's not that it's like easier per se. I think like again like this go back to like social media, like pandemic and TikTok really kind of changed. Like there was like a shift in like everything. Like for me, like from a photographer and content creator point of view, like how I see it. And I think it's like simultaneously there were a lot of things happening. Like, and you know, of course, like people like Corey who has been doing it, and then there are these kids who may have found people who've done it. So, but then now TikTok kind of blew it up to like for kids to be like more free with their expression, especially just in America. I can't speak about like other parts of the world or other parts of US. I'm just saying like this bubble that I'm seeing, like that's how I see it. It's like simultaneously like everything's happening. And then now it's kind of like becoming like this normalization of like it's okay if you are masculine but you dress feminine, that's fine. Or if you're like very androgynous, that's okay. And so I feel like it's like a bunch of things happening at the same time, not really like this or that, like, you know. So yeah, but definitely again, we as in queer people have been always been ahead of the trend. So
Yeah.
And I think what you were mentioning too is that though youth are experiencing some of the work that has been done by us and our elders, at the same time they're also living in a world, they're doing the work, they're also doing the work.
Truly here.
Yeah.
I honestly think that Gen Z, I say this all the time in the house with Trey, it makes me laugh. I'm gonna say it in front of people because I don't think I ever have before. So like there's a difference to me between like Gen Z and millennials, right? And it's like and I'm talking about like progressive Gen Z and progressive millennials. Like if you like millennials will go to Chick-fil-A, right? And they'll eat the chicken, even knowing that like it's like, you know, you're supporting like an anti-LGBT organization, like, and there are receipts, you know, but like Gen Z will not eat that chicken. Like they will definitely not eat that chicken. Millennials are like we so like I feel like we like even though they are enjoying honestly like it does make me, I don't know why I like heard Harry Styles and then just decided to just talk about that, because you're right, like that is so much more important. There is a generation of people that came before the Harry Styles generation, and we did a lot of great work. And that's why I love that you've anthologized it the way you've done in this book, because I love every single person like mentioned in that. And like it does sometimes my frail ego gets kind of like, oh, well, you have no idea what I went through.
Yeah,
you have no idea like how hard it was to, you know, to build a career where like I can literally like that fight is over for me. And I think there are a lot of kids who and that's what I wanted. That's what we wanted. So like why? So I'm actually not upset about it. I think it's awesome. That's when I put the frail ego to bed. But like, but I still think we need to give Gen Z their flowers, because they have been the fiercest generation to come in terms of fighting for what they believe in, and just they are just with all the badassery, you know. So
yeah, absolutely. Flowers. Yes.
Yeah.
I was gonna say though too that they all of us, but particularly since they've seen this kind of like all of a sudden abrupt halt to our progress, where right now we're seeing like the highest number of anti-LGBTQ bills across the country. And some of them, particularly, I was just down in Tennessee covering their pride. In Tennessee, you know, they have the anti-drag bans, and it was very difficult because they normally have a street parade and they had to, you know, divide it between the street parade and then bringing it indoors for the drag performances, because they could potentially be at risk for being arrested. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the politics of queer style. I mean, all fashion is political. Everything that we wear is cultural, national, based on what we're taught in our homes, based on what society expects us to dress. And I just wanted to talk to you in this moment right now. What is the emancipatory potential of queer style? How do you see it being about autonomy, having autonomy over our own bodies, not only in how we dress, but just in everything that right now is being challenged about our decisions over our bodies?
That's a long question.
Sorry.
No, it's a good question. It's great. It's freaking great. I mean, I know how I feel. Okay. I really do. Well, I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation that I feel like there's this superpower that queer style, that queer people possess. It's this ability to articulate who we are without words. It's this ability to like psychically like have this like understanding, like we have like community, like, you know, and it's so easy to, I mean, it's not easy, but I mean, it's something that you can find in another person without actually speaking to them. Like what? Like I find that so incredible. I really do believe in a deeper sense that all humans have this capacity. Like if we can just look at what we have in common, there's so much, like we don't need to be doing all this mess at all. But since we are like politicizing every little thing, the superpower is that our style is like, it's communicative. Like it's like I'm wearing this whatever, like I'll go back to the grocery store. Like if I do that one day that I am feeling a little bit sassy and I have a little bit more energy, like I'm doing that knowing that I'm making a freaking statement, by God, you know, and these people that otherwise maybe would have never been exposed to somebody like me, you know, like we have that power. We walk into a room and we have an energy changing power just based on how we chose to present. What? That's magical. And in that too, we can find others and like literally like connect our power. And like I just find that like I get goosebumps thinking about that. And sometimes, most times, I just don't want to do it. I mean, literally the main reason you go into a grocery store is to get food. It's not to like change the world, you know? So like that, like bearing that in mind, like I do think that like we like it, all of that is just a really like flowery way of saying like just be yourself, because that is the most, your existence is the resistance, like that's it, you know. We have to be ourselves and support one another, and really and like yeah, no infighting or tearing each other down. Literally, like when you find your queer fam, uplift and support one another. Yeah.
Your resistance is the resistance.
Yeah.
That's it. That's my answer.
Yourself.
Everyone else is taking it. That's it.
Question about being yourself. We get a lot of people come to Deborah Q. Like one we do this thing called we do a regular series called Corporate Q, and it's about people being their most authentic selves in the workplace. And people talk about, you know, being uplifted, having a really great time, and other people talk about having to hide themselves. We got a query once that was asking, I have a potential dream job. I am not sure if I should wear what is they expect me to wear and then go to work and potentially be harassed or lose my job, and or if I should dress as I would normally dress and risk not getting the job. And that was the hardest thing to really delve into, because it's not a simple like ask vote, like, should I wear the pearls or should I go with the pencils? Like,
yeah,
you know,
it's really deep.
yeah, this is our likelihood. So my question is like, or I guess if you just, not even a question, if you just wanted to weigh in on who can afford to be visible, is it so easy to tell people be who you are?
Yeah. Gosh, it would take like a collective stream of consciousness where we all just decide one day, like we're just gonna do it. Like we're just gonna jump off together, you know, like we're all just gonna be naked, like screw it. But no, we can't. Like honestly, like survival is essential, and like we have to like we have to take care of ourselves. Like this is this is the construct. Like we talk about it all the time. Like it's just like over and over and over. We talk about like how can we get over this social construct. I think though the start is to have these conversations. Like they're not easy to have and they don't happen casually. We're not like regularly like, oh, so what did you do to like stand up against this social construct that we're all living in? Like we just don't do that. And I don't know, I feel like it's like educating yourself on the reality of what it is, having the uncomfortable conversations with like the people you love who have already subscribed to it and might seem like they're so far gone, like freaking Thanksgiving is coming up and like, you know what I mean? Like we have a choice. Like we have a choice when we go into those situations, we put our armor on. Well, I guess that is it. Like is the choice is put the armor on or don't, or just go and just let whatever come your way and just literally stand by your convictions and speak truth to power. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think mentioning, the holidays coming up, and a lot of people say, well, what does queer fashion have to do with me? What does that experience, what does the drag thing have to do with me? But I do think it's going back to that body autonomy, and everyone has had the experience of being judged for their body, their age, their parents or somebody making a passing comment that's made them feel less than. And I think that queer fashion really does have the power to change that, and our inclusivity and breaking kind of barriers and binaries.
Yeah.
So I think that one of the important things too is having these digital platforms that you both curate. Can you talk to me a little bit about that in terms of your outreach? Have people reached out to you in places that they don't normally see people have these big, resources? How's your visibility in this fashion world online helped people?
So I grew up in Burma, like Myanmar is a little country next to Thailand. And growing up, like it was I like to say the country was closed because we didn't really have any like good relations with the world, and it was like a communist, kind of like a socialist communist type of vibes, military regime growing up. So I didn't really have like anyone like I seen. And then when I got here, like you said about like how like why is queer fashion has to do with family gatherings and stuff like that. It's like it's the first thing a kid is gonna experience as a queer child is that. Like they can't even wear something they just want to feel good in because there's already this binary expectations in every family that we grew up in. And actually, I had this conversation last night with my partner and like their friends at home. We're playing like We're Not Really Strangers card game, and then it came up, and like every single one of us had that problem. I had a friend. She's a trans woman, so she was like, I remember the time where I closed my door and just play dress up at home because I know none of my family members would like appreciate it or say something about it. For me, I was like if you put on a skirt on me, a three-year-old, like 3-year-old doesn't understand anything, but when they try to even bring that near me, I will cry. So like growing up from like 3 to like 14 before I got here, my parents and I had a deal like one year, one day I wear a skirt for them. One occasion. One occasion, I said choose which occasion. Because in the first like 3 to 7, it was like I will cry and then there was yell and there was all the things. I was just like, okay, one day in a whole year, you decide when I wear a skirt, I'll wear it, right? And then when I got here, that doesn't happen anymore. They kind of give up on me and like all this stuff. And then when I started doing photography and stuff, I genuinely just like wanted to do photography, be a photographer, and be behind the scenes. But then again, like social media is a good thing and a bad thing, and it happens. And then I meet people from WQ and other creators, and they're like, oh, like you don't always have to be behind the camera. If you feel like you want to show who you are, it's okay. And my partner, my girlfriend, she's like super stylish, and like after I met her, like my style got better. Because I steal her clothes, we share a closet. And then I started becoming comfortable showing myself on Instagram, whatever. And then I went back to Burma like 2 years into my career. And then I just didn't realize like just me being visible, showing myself to like on social media and working with these people, like these celebrities from Burma or whatever. And like I didn't know that like there were kids that needed to see that. Like I would get a lot of messages, especially from Burmese kids, not really like American kids here, but like they're like how did you be a tomboy and like do what you do? Like why doesn't your parents say anything about it? Like doing what you do, and like and like how do you talk to them? They were asking like, how do I talk to people around me? How do I make them understand like why they want to do what they do or why they dress the way they dress? And growing up in like Burma has always been like the key to like thick-headed people is like moderation. Like but then again, like at the end of the day, I just realized you should just be who you are, like and really try to find who you are. Because first, I think like even before you like do anything, show it into the world, you should really kind of know who you are. Even though who you are is constantly changing, I think first try to see who you are and like what really makes you happy. And then if you find that, then you should just do that. Don't care about like parents or whatever, because at the end of the day, like you need to make yourself happy. So like express yourself, So, yeah.
Social media was something that I the following that I had, like I totally I stumbled into it. Like it was very clunky and awkward. I did not build and curate a following. I was on a reality TV show. And honestly, I was not an activist whatsoever. I already said that before the whole top model thing. I just wanted to be famous. Like I was so vain, vapid, different. This is like 10 years ago though, so I've grown up a lot, and I really feel like, yeah, if I ever like catch an old episode, I'm like no. But what I didn't realize was like, for the very simple fact that I was existing as the only queer person like on that televised platform, like on that show for that season, like that did so damn much for so many people, myself included. But after the fact, like after I was hearing the stories from the people around the world who could relate to my experience somehow. America's Next Top Model airs in, well, at the time it aired in 186 different countries around the world. So like, yeah, and this was before marriage was even legal, I think, when I was on it. Yeah, 10 years ago. Yeah, but like we were like in the throes of like fighting for marriage equality in America, and then over, well, we already know, like in other places around the world where differences aren't as widely accepted or understood as they should be in America, it's really intense for these kids who are watching me on their TV screens. So when I started to get those messages, like literally a little gay boy from a public library in Russia, private Twitter messaging me because he just got kicked out of his house because he told his mom he was gay after watching my show, seeing me on TV. Then I was like, okay. I was like, Corey, you stupid bitch. Like you cannot you have to stop this fame chase, this like I still have to quiet the ego in me to this day, but it's gotten a hell of a lot easier just because of how cruel I know the world to be. And I've just felt like it means so much more that I affiliate myself with organizations like Deborah Q, with my loves over at the Fluid Project, and then the work that I do on my own in DEI for brands and businesses, also as well as like going to the colleges and the universities. Like, yeah, it's been an awesome like career of public speaking that I've been able to build for myself, but it means so much more than the success alone, the money, or any kind of notoriety it gives me. It's a totally different life path than what I thought this freaking top model thing was going to be. I literally went into it like supermodel of the world, and also like social media too for me. Like I thought it was just gonna be like, I'm the supermodel of the world. Yeah. It's not that. I have a community of like real people who are like just so beautiful, so unapologetically queer, or just wanting to learn more about queer experiences or have queer children, and it's just never ending. It gets to be a lot sometimes, so I often take breaks and I go into my like, my coffin, and then I come and then I come back out and I'm like, hello, it's still me and you're still you and we're still doing this thing, and we're just so not alone. It's like amazing like how many people are like, like going through the struggles that we've risen above, and we have a lot to offer just through existing as queer people and sharing our stories and connecting with one another. It's amazing what we can do when we just open our freaking mouths and talk about what's really going on and our real experiences. And that's what social media has become for me. And yeah.
I feel like this going back to like visibility, like it's very important. Even I saw it like when I was in college and stuff. There were you can count how many lesbians on campus. That's how dominantly cishet that college was. So I feel like but I've always like been like this like since I was in college. And I remember like one of my friends, like when we first met, I was like, I don't know if she gay. She gay, right? And she swear she had a boyfriend and all that stuff. And she was like she was like South Asian. So and then I started dating a South Asian girl at that time. And then a couple months later she come back into school. She's like, so actually like I'm gay too. And I was like, I knew it, man. She's like, seeing your girlfriend who's also South Asian was dating and openly dating, like make me realize like, oh, why am I hiding?
Yeah.
Like, and so visibility to me has always been important, but I think like not everyone has the space and the safety to be visible. So if you do have the chance to like be who you are and show the world like Corey is, and like I'm pretty sure like Corey gets crazier messages that like I've ever gotten, like and so
I can send you some.
That story, like the Russian kids on the private jet.
Yeah, that's the one that just
Yeah.
stands out. Like that was honestly, that is the most intense one
Yeah.
I've ever had in my whole life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I constantly recount and recall because like that was like it just
Yeah.
hit me in the face. I'm like, what am I doing? With my life. And yeah.
I had a kid from Burma. She was like, I like really want to leave my like. She can't even go to a college outside of Burma because her parents are that strict.
Mhm.
They're very religious. So then she had a girlfriend like that she was dating. Like she like told me her whole story. And she's like, how do I communicate to be like, I want to go live my life?
That's heavy.
And I was like, wow, like this is what I did. But I don't know if that will work for you. And like, I told her like going back to what you said, like I was like, what really helped me was my friends. Like I was like, you need to find people that will understand you and like really support you, really love you, and that will really change like your mentality too. Maybe it will encourage you. Maybe you might have the capacity to leap on your own. Because growing up like in like Burma and stuff, like it's a very family that like the relationship is very close knitted, like super. So it's very hard for kids because that's all they are taught to like really love and like all that. So when I get those type of messages, I was like,
Yeah.
wow, like this is like sometimes I don't even know what to say, like But then again, now they have someone that they can talk to, right? And then that's where visibility is so important. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just in closing before, I think we have time for one more question. So just thinking about how you want people to also relate to clothing. I mean, I think queer people are constantly thinking about clothing in terms of outing themselves, you know, their safety, where am I going, travel. We even have a travel section on Dapper Q, and people are like, why is that relevant? It's like, because you can't dress in New York City the way you can in other places. So it's something that we're consciously thinking of. So if you were to have the audience, irrespective of their sexual orientation or their gender identity or presentation, take away, what would you ask them to think about as they get dressed every day?
To really sit in the real feelings of the moment. I think the most sacred relationship we all have is the one with ourselves, and when we're getting ready, that is the moment, like that we're all like in our own like shrine of self. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm cranking up the Beyonce and I'm like, oh, maybe I'm doing this, maybe I'm doing that. Like, you know, I would say focus on the feeling, your true feelings, instead of chasing the unattainable, chasing the falsified narrative of how we're expected to present and be and what, you know, is most desirable in the world. Like, I think we all need to, I mean, even myself, I could do a better job of like, just not trying to chase that so much, and instead really do it for me. Do it because I love it. Everything, don't wear anything that you don't love. Don't, yeah, force yourself into any mold that you really don't feel comfortable in. You're building yourself with every style choice that you make. And I think we all just, yeah. And again, it's so corny, but like literally be yourself, like be yourself. That's what I would say.
I will say the same to like be yourself, but then like I just want to say like even if you have to fit into a box or like you have a like you know some type of restrictions on how you dress, I will try to stay true to yourself. And this is when I feel like platforms like WQ are very important, because they also have style tips and stuff, and that's when I learned, like, you know, because like my only time where I felt like I was a little like, okay, I need to dress a little bit more conservative or something was maybe in college, like where I'm like, okay, like, do I wear this? Is this too loud? Like, you know, like those type of questions. But I remember reading Dapper Q and I was like, oh, okay, so like if you want to go dapper, you could go something like that. If you want to go street, this is very street, but it's still fashionable, but maybe a little bit chiller. Like we go to party looking like this. So like that's why I like Dapper Q platform is like very important even now. But like be yourself, even if you have like if you're trying to be like fit into a box. But yeah.
Thank you both. So do we have time for questions? Okay, are there any questions from the audience?
I have a question. I mean, obviously all three of you are making an impact. You're very visible, and you're giving a big audience out there a chance to see somebody that they can relate to and get confidence from. But I'm curious, is there anyone out there that you're sort of getting the same from, that you're looking up to or getting inspired by, and who's giving you that boost to keep going, be yourself, and do your thing?
So there's so many.
Yeah.
I mean, like when I honestly flipped through the book that you put together, I'm like, oh, there's another one. You know, I want to mention Alok. I mean, I just think like literally the way that they speak, there's magic woven in between every word they choose and how they get their message. It's like really just like, and I think yeah, I can't even say it enough. And then like the people, like you know, back when I was first like putting my style journey, it used to be like very just like, I want to say poser. Well, I would say poser because I wasn't dressing based on how I really felt. Like I had a Misfits shirt before I even knew what the band was. You know what I mean? Yeah, like I had never listened to them. I was just wearing a shirt that said the Misfits. I'm like, I'm awesome. No. But like I'm learning at that time I learned a lot about Grace Jones, and just watching the archives of like amazing interviews from Grace Jones and how they speak about like their sort of like gender fluidity and like being under that lens and everything. And then I started to like change my fashion more and more and more, and like to try to find my, because I always felt like somewhere in the middle of like masculine and feminine too, and I love that. So I don't know, but there's just so many. I even like seeing Harry Styles do what Harry Styles does. I'm definitely not like my thing, but like just as an inspiration for younger people, I think that it's okay. I think I actually realized that in this seat today. Yeah, I love everybody. All the queer people are the best, and they're all inspirational. Seriously, like everyone's amazing.
For me, I think with other creators, like, because I'm always on TikTok and Instagram, that's part of my job anyway. So it's just like whoever I see, and I'm like, oh, like, wow, they look really good. And I'll start following them, and then obviously, then, but, and also over time, it changes, like, style and inspo, how I feel. Because style's like always like, it's a feeling. So it just depends. Like some years I'm really into dapper look. Now I'm like not, so yeah.
I would say for me, what's been a big influence is the queer femmes, because I am a Gen Xer, so I'm gonna leave that millennial Gen Z boomer battle with y'all. We hide in the shadows. But when I came out, I came out in the 90s, and I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We had one queer bar and we had one lesbian night. And back then, even in the queer community, there was only two ways of being, particularly for queer women, which was you were either butch or you were femme. And there was no two other ways about it. And femme was often looked at as being apolitical, that you weren't truly gay. And I tried to mold myself so hard into having some sort of butch look. And particularly around the 2000s, when that like emo look came out and everything was like asymmetrical haircut and skinny jeans. I'm not hating on it.
Like me, like that was my poser era. Like I'm not kidding. Like that's what I'm talking.
Yeah, I mean, I think that aesthetic works for people who it works for, people who it like, but I wasn't being authentic to myself.
Right.
I really felt even in the queer community, there's like pressure to be and look more queer so that people would take my sexual orientation seriously. I'm just a J. Crew femme at the end of the day. That's all right. And that's all right. Yeah. And I think that social media, and particularly some of the models in the book, I'm gonna give it up to Thea, which is Kim's partner. Thea is just this fashion, like I can never live up to that style, but it just provides me so much inspiration that you can be super femme and super queer and really creative with it as well. And then also like Amy Stretton is in the book. She's a Black and Indigenous writer and content creator. You can find her on Chief of Style, Gabrielle Korn. So all of these more femme visibility is really where I drew my inspiration from. And those are the people who I'm finding provide me comfort and power to be myself. Any other questions or comments?
I just noticed your earrings. They're awesome.
Yeah.
They say be gay.
Be gay.
Yeah.
I say.
Oh, do crime. Wait a minute now.
Yes, be out there. Be gay and do crime. So if there are no other questions, I just want to thank you so much to the panelists for being here today and sharing this space and your knowledge. Check out the Dapper Q book, support the bookstore here, either through the cash bag or the Venmo or a purchase of a book. We really appreciate it. And if you do purchase a book, I'm happy to sign it. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks to everyone who joined us online. Have a good day.